Touch the leg and welcome to Tibet This Week, our weekly news that features Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Top news of the week. Tibetan scholar wrongfully imprisoned and subjected to deathly treatment. Drakgo update. Chinese authorities arrest more Tibetans upon mobile phone inspection. Central Tibetan Administration thanks all-party Japanese Parliamentary Group for Tibet on resolution condemning China on human rights violations. Speaker Khenpo Sonam Tenphel offers last prayers on Kyabje Dodrubchen Rinpoche. German Parliamentary Group for Tibet convenes first meeting for the new legislative term. Australian lawmakers congratulate Uzra Zeya, call for joint effort on Tibet. Office of Tibet, Washington, D.C. meets U.S. Ambassador for International Religious Freedom, Rashad Hussain. Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization Secretary General visits Office of Tibet, Brussels. Swiss-Tibetan community of Geneva holds protests against China's continued occupation of Tibet. Office of Tibet, Taipei welcomes the director of Mongolian and Tibetan Cultural Center. Representative Karma Singey visits Tibetan Language and Culture School in Sydney. One of Tibet's eminent scholars, Kyabje, who is serving a 10-year prison sentence, is reportedly in a serious health condition as a result from beatings and mistreatments in Chinese police custody since his arrest in October 2020. Lack of proper necessities in prison such as food and medical treatment compounded by beatings has further deteriorated Kyabje's health. Kyabje has been reportedly suffering from a chronic lung disease believed to have contracted during his earlier imprisonment in 1998. Chinese authorities arrested Kyabje on 26 October 2020 while he was in Tangtu for his medical treatment. He is currently being held in Chushu prison in the so-called Tibet Autonomous Region. According to a recent report, 3 Tibetan pilgrims, a woman named Norzo and 2 men, Asang and Dota, were arrested in Drakgo, Tibet in January. 3 of them were residents of Taipei Township, Chamdo, in the so-called Tibet Autonomous Region and were arrested after they were found in possession of pictures and videos of the recent demolition of the 30-foot-tall Maitreya statue at Drakgo Monastery. They are currently being held in Chamdo police station. Sources also confirmed the arrest of Tashi Dorji, a monk of Drakgo Monastery, in the beginning of January this year. He was accused of sending information about the recent Drakgo unrest outside Tibet. In a letter sent to all-party Japanese Parliamentary Group for Tibet, Sikyong Pempa Siring of the Central Tibetan Administration on Monday this week expressed his gratitude for their efforts in the passage of the resolution condemning China for its gross human rights violations. Kalun for the Department of Information and International Relations, Nurzin Dolma, and Deputy Speaker of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile, Dolma Tsiring, joined an online meeting held by Tibet support groups in Japan on Saturday last week, where the Tibetan leaders thanked the Japan Parliament for the resolution. The Kashak of the Central Tibetan Administration thanked the Super Samga, an association of Japanese monks, for their solidarity with the Tibetans in Tibet suffering under the brutal Chinese regime, particularly the series of destructions and demolitions in Drakgo, Tibet on Friday last week. Khenpo Sonam Tenphel, the Speaker of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile, visited Sikkim to offer his last prayers to Kyabje Dodrubchen Rinpoche and paid homage and condolence to his disciples and followers on 25th of last month. The Speaker was welcomed and received by Sikkim government officials, chairman of local Tibetan Assembly, settlement officer, and members of non-governmental organizations. During his visit to Sikkim, the Speaker also paid a quick visit to Namgyal Institute of Tibetology. German cross-party parliamentary group for Tibet convened its first organizational meeting for the 20th legislative term on Thursday last week. Member of Parliament Michael Brandt was elected as the chairman of parliamentary group. German parliamentarian members of the group, MP Maria Klein-Schmink, MP Peter Haidt, and MP Nadja Stemmer were elected as co-chairs of the group. Reaffirming continued effort for advancing Tibet agenda, the chair of the group, MP Brandt, announced to set clear political initiatives for Tibet and Tibetan people in the German parliament. Australian parliamentarians Warren Entsch and Susan Templeman, the two co-chairs of the Australian All-Party Parliamentary Friendship Group for Tibet, wrote a letter to Under-Secretary Uzra Zeya on Thursday last week, congratulating her on being appointed as the U.S. Special Coordinator for Tibetan issues. They called on her for a joint efforts and collaboration with like-minded partners to resolve the Sino-Tibet conflict. Representative Namgyal Chitup and Secretary Tashi Thundup met with U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, Rashad Hussain, and staff Alex Hawke on Tuesday this week. While Representative Chitup briefed Ambassador Hussain on the Central Tibetan administration's firm commitment to the middle way policy to resolve the Sino-Tibet issue and the deteriorating situation inside Tibet, Ambassador Hussain reaffirmed his continued support for the religious freedom inside Tibet and his desire to work closely with Office of Tibet and to meet His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the near future. Representative Namgyal Chitup, Secretary Tashi Thundup, and the heads and staff of International Campaign for Tibet also had an online meeting with the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations senior officials on Thursday last week, where Representative Chitup emphasized on the importance of reaching out to young Chinese students to build a better understanding between the Chinese and Tibetan societies. The meeting also focused on specific issues to seek feedback and support from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee as part of the Tibet Support and Policy Acts passed by the U.S. Congress. Representative Tashi Phuntsok and EU Advocacy Officer Rinzin Khengang met with Unrepresented Nations and People's Organization Secretary General Mr. Ralph Bunche at the Office of Tibet, Brussels on Monday this week. Representative Tashi Phuntsok expressed his desire to see the organization organize events on the succession of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Middle Way approach later this year. EU Advocacy Officer Rinzin Khengang participated in the UNPO Presidency virtual meeting on Thursday last week. The meeting provided an opportunity to discuss the progress, challenges, and activities of the organization. Marking the historic day of the proclamation of Tibetan independence by the 13th Dalai Lama, the Swiss-Tibetan community of Geneva section staged a sit-in protest in front of the UN Human Rights Council office in Geneva on Sunday last week. Unfurling the Tibetan national flag and enlarged banners depicting the grim situation in Tibet, members of the community called for the international community's concerted efforts to counter Beijing's propaganda with informed historical facts of Tibet and current situation of Tibetan people under China's control. Office of Tibet Taipei welcomed and received the director of Mongolian and Tibetan Culture Center along with a former director and staff who paid a courtesy call to the former's office on Friday last week. Representative Kelsang Gyaltsen Bawa apprised the team about improving relations between the two sides after establishing Culture Center under the administration of the Ministry of Culture. Kangjong publication of the Office of Tibet based in Taiwan took part in the Citizen Book Fair 2022 organized by the Independent Publishers Association of Taiwan from 9th to 14th of this month. Representative Karma Singey of Canberra-based Office of Tibet visited the Tibetan Language and Culture School in Sydney on Saturday last week. Representative Karma, while interacting with the students, highlighted on the preservation of Tibetan language and culture as a prime responsibility and stress on the importance of integrating both traditional and modern knowledge. Representative also attended a meeting organized by Australia Tibet Council, one of the biggest Tibet support group in Australia, to discuss strategic plan on advocacy and campaigns. That is all for this week. See you next time and have a great weekend.